Hello fellow YouTubers, this is Bill McFadden with Tone Pure Music, and this will be the last tutorial on the Metropolis Ark 3. In the first tutorials we talked about the multi-articulations and we talked about the single articulations that were not included in the multis. And now we're going to take a look at the multis of multis. Orchestral Tools has set up some multis, which we can get to by selecting once you're in the Metropolis interface, just click on multis, and then you have 21 different multis, which are combinations of the multis. So we'll go ahead and take a look at those because they're quite useful for using these articulations. Now the first one is the low woodwinds. So basically you have your high-low strings, high-low woodwinds, your trumpets, horns, your low brass, and even some percussion, which is coming up. Well, I guess in this particular multi there's no percussion, but you have your low brass. So let's hear what the staccato sounds like across all of those instruments. And then we have the, as we saw before, the upbeat single. And the upbeat triplet. Or actually, that's a half note down, but here's the upbeat triplet. The nice thing is you just have these articulations across the range of the various instruments, the various sections, the brass, the strings, the woodwinds. And then we have the flutter crescendo, which we've seen before individually, but here we have them all together. And then the half note down. There we go. So it just gives you access to the full range of the orchestra. And then we have the crescendo shorts. And then the crescendo mediums. Crescendo longs would be the next one. And then we have the decrescendos, decrescendo long, decrescendo short. Here's your decrescendo long. Actually, let's go here. There, that's it. See, you have to use the key switches because if you switch it in the interface, you're just switching that with that one particular instrument. In this case, it would have been the low brass. And then here's your decrescendo long. Let's see, move up here. Or decrescendo short. And the next multi they have, some of them just have one articulation, but that one had quite a few, and so does this one here. The string orchestra, these are cluster articulations. So let's go ahead and select staccato, which is C1. And it's staccato across the entire orchestra. And it's a staccato cluster. And then we can move up the key switch, and here's your upbeat single again, and your upbeat triplet. And then here we have the crescendo cluster, and then the half note down cluster, and across the entire orchestra, so it's handy. Staccato wide, cluster, upbeat single cluster, upbeat triplet wide, and then the crescendo flutter across the entire orchestra, which is basically what this is all about, just spreading the different articulations. So this one is just a single articulation. As you can see, there are no key switches on these, like the last one. So these are just the one articulation, consisting of timpani this time, trumpets, horns, low brass, low woodwinds, high woodwinds, high strings, low strings. So you can actually get something going there. So you can use these for inspirations to give you ideas for an orchestration. And the next one we'll look at, once the beach ball lets us, is the fifth one in our sequence, which is decrescendo. And it's one articulation. So we have timpani ensemble hit. And then we have the forte piano articulation in combination with decrescendo longs. And the next one we have as we go along is the multi. So we actually have three articulations. The first one is your crescendo short. Across the orchestra. And then we have the crescendo medium. And crescendo long. And then we'll take a look at the next multi of multis. So Here we have the repetitions multi, and the first key switch gives you the half note repetition, as you can see down here. We saw the half note repetitions before when we were looking at the individual multis. Now this particular multi is pretty tough on system resources. You can usually get away with 2 notes. But when you go beyond 2 notes, you can get spikes, and if you switch the notes quickly, you can get spikes. Now I could set my buffer size a little higher, which would help, but this is the only one in the multis that causes a bit of a problem. And then, of course, as we saw before, with the repetitions, you have the 16th note and the 8th note triplet, 8th note, 4th note triplet, or quarter note triplet, and so on, and quarter note and half note. So the next one they provide for us is clusters repetitions. So, and by the way, this one's also hard on system resources. But what you can also do is go ahead and take some of them out and lower the number of multis that are loaded in, and that'll help with system resources. Like you could maybe keep your strings and your brass in and take out the woodwind, for example. So right here we've got the half note, quarter note, very reminiscent of Bernard Herrmann. So you could use this stuff for suspenseful cues. And then we have the next preset in the multi-category. Here we have staccatissimo, and as you can see here, that's it. We also have, in addition, we have some low drum ensemble accents, but pretty much everything is one patch. And then your low note is B1. And it actually doesn't go too high. Basically, that's your high note, C4. And then we have the 10th multi they provide. Staccatissimo. And this time you have percussion hits, taiko hits. We got trumpets, horns, high, low woodwinds, even a low drum ensemble. So that sounds like this. There's your woodwinds up there by themselves. And of course, if you want to bring any one of these groups out, you've got your volume control right here, so you can go ahead and balance the volume in the way you like. And again, you can go ahead and delete some of these. Like if you don't want the piano staccatissimo in there, you can take it out, or you could raise the volume up so it's more pronounced. And then down here in C1 you have some drums. Cymbals, and even a little bit of metal at B flat 1 and B1. You have your metals. So it's just the way they've constructed it. And then the last one in this particular instance that we'll take a look at, and then we'll pull up another one, is low strings clusters, staccatissimo clusters with drum accents. So, and that sounds like this. There's your taikos. Here's your piano. More pronounced up there. Then I'll go ahead and pause it right here, and we'll come back and look at the rest. Looking at preset number 12, we're back into clusters again. So here we have the, and this is just a single articulation. If you go to the one of the multis, you can see it's really, there are no articulations involved. So it's staccato, but it's clusters. And not only that, you get some, here's your taikos. There's your metals again at B flat 1 and B1. And there they're singling out the piano cluster. And of course, at any time you can go ahead and just solo the individual ones. So it gives you the range that will be affecting everything. And then the next multi they provide, 13 on our way to 21. And let's see if we'll go ahead and, we have a we have key switches on this one. So there's your upbeat single. We've seen these before in the single multis. Then your upbeat triplets. And then your flutter crescendos. But the nice thing is you have it across the entire orchestra. And then we get into the whoops, again, I want to use key switches because we have to change all of these. So upbeat triplet clusters. And then the flutter crescendos. And pretty much there's that multi. And then we have some staccatos, but we have woodwind staccatos mixed with some high woodwind staccato clusters and low woodwind staccato clusters. Let's see. Okay, so that's what that sounds like. And 15, again, we have a single articulation, trumpets, horns, and low brass. So primarily a brass articulation. And it's just staccato. And we have another single articulation, high strings with high string clusters, low strings with low string clusters. So they give you some ideas of how to mix these different articulations, which is interesting. And then here we have some, it's a multi of multis. We have high woodwinds, low woodwinds combined together. And the first one is staccato. Goes up to F6. And then you have your upbeat singles. It's sort of like a double tongue. And then a triplet. And then you have your half note down. And forte piano, which is like a sustain with a sort of like a marcato, but it has a long sustain to it, as you can see. And we've seen those before when we were looking at the individual multis. Flutter crescendo, and you have 4 of those, and we've seen they just increase in longevity or time. And then the next one we have is the low brass and horn ensemble along with the trumpets. So again, a brass multi of multis. And we have the different articulations starting with staccato. And the upbeat single. And then you have your upbeat triplet, half note down, and then the piano forte, marcato long, across the entire brass section. flutter clusters. Followed by a delay. And now we have the low strings, high strings, string quintet combined together. And we have all of the, it's a multi again. There's your staccato. Then you have your other articulations we've seen repeatedly. Upbeat single. Ricochet. Crescendo short. Crescendo medium, then they have crescendo long, decrescendo short, and so on. Let's go ahead and do the decrescendo short and the half note down. And then just before 21, we have a multi consisting of some percussion, quite a lot of percussion, including metal. It's really just percussion, and when you just have the one articulation, this key down here is your round robin reset. So it's primarily between C4 and B4. Nothing round in there. And then finally, our last multi of multis is another percussion multi. With just one articulation throughout. It's just basically drums across the, starting, okay, at C2, there's a snare, lands, some rolls, bass drum, rolls, rim shots, and I think that's, oh, I have a few more things up here. All the way up to B7. So with the multis, it's hard to tell because they're all grouped together, so you can't really see the key range. You just see the key range pretty much of the last one. So this is Bill McFadden. That'll wrap up our final look into Metropolis Ark 3, I promise. And so this is Bill McFadden from Tone Pure Music, signing off.